I can see a world where everyone is going to use one wearable for track your health. Definitely could be a pill, could be something that you are going to implant for yourself, could be a tattoo. Everyone is moving to the healthcare space because want to be medical device.
This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. Apple Watch, Whoop, Oura, the wearables market is rapidly growing. A 2024 study by Parks Associates shows that nearly 50% of U.S. internet households now own and use wearable devices. The study also found that 92% of those planning to buy a wearable are willing to pay extra for features like blood pressure monitoring, highlighting their role in preventative healthcare and managing chronic conditions. On today's episode, we're joined by Marco Benitez, CEO and founder of ROOK. Marco's background as a Tae Kwon Do champion, biomedical engineer, and entrepreneur gives him a unique take on how wearables are reshaping fitness and healthcare. On today's episode, we'll explore the future of wearables, why health club operators should embrace this technology, and how they can make better use of wearable data. Plus, Marco shares practical entrepreneurial advice to kickstart your new year. Before we get to it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry thought leaders and influencers. I'm your host, Krissy Vann, and this is ATFW. Marco Benitez joining me from ROOK or ROOK, depending on your preference here. And I'm so happy to have you because at time of airing, we're going to be at the start of 2025. And once again, topping the list is the conversation around wearables. They are not new, but they are advancing at a rapid pace. Adaptation amongst consumers continues to grow and become this interwoven part of people's lives. And your job, as I understand, has been making sense of the data because data is great, but it's all well and fine until you don't know what to do with it. So tell me a little bit, first of all, about how your company came to be.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks so much for this opportunity. Very excited to be here in your podcast. Yeah, well, first of all, was I think as every company, it's like looking for the try to solve a problem. And the first problem was for our previous company. We have a company that worked in the fitness centers before. So we streamlined before the heart rate and effort zones in real time, like my zone, more or less, like this type of platform. And we used to do that. And then when pandemic hits, we realized that because before we have a hardware, so we had before a heart rate monitor for chest and another one for the arm. I'm biomedical engineer, so we love to build things. So we built before medical devices. So for us was okay, let's do a heart rate monitor. So before we have this platform and was very successful in Latin America and in the south of US. But then again, when the pandemic hits, we saw that the end users want to use not our wearables necessary. They want to use the wearables that they have already, like the Apple Watches or even the Whoops or the Auras or whatever, right? So we start to integrate the wearables for our own purpose, for our own platform, and we saw the mess that every single wearable it's difficult to integrate. At the same time, it's very difficult to make sense of all this information and then deliver that data in a very specific way. It's very complex. So we thought those days like, okay, what do we have to do? Because our platform is good, we are bootstrap, we are doing great, but this specific thing, it's quite interesting. So with that idea, we joined Techstars, the accelerator program, and that gave us the opportunity to expand our network. And they told us like, this is a no-brainer. It's a lot of data that you are putting all together for your clients. That's massive. And then we have a interesting meeting with in the healthcare space with too many companies that are interested in this data, and that's when we realized that okay, this is a big deal here. So let's continue building on top of that.
So all of a sudden you realize the pivot and what direction you need to go. Biomedical engineer all of a sudden becoming absorbed in a wealth of data. Tell me a little bit about what sectors you found the wearable data to be applicable to, because before the conversation, you and I spoke. Obviously, I speak more to the fitness industry side of things.
Yeah.
You're mentioning healthcare. So, talk to me a little bit about this intersection that we're seeing and where the value of this information and these data points really serve.
Definitely. Our first assumption was on the fitness industry and sports. And we were right. I mean, today fitness centers, clubs are very interesting and willing to consume this data because it's really great data. They can engage with the end user, they can customize, they can, personalize, they can do a lot of very good stuff. However, something that we are looking in the market, it's like healthcare and fitness are all together, and they need to work together because it's not once it was it's not like in different places. They are in the same level. One is preventive and the other is reactive, and fitness is 100% preventive. It's not just look good and have muscles and these type of things. It's more than that. And you can prevent you know diabetes, obesity, hypertension, also oncology diseases. They started in with this type of problems. So there is the willingness to use wearables are in both places, not only in the fitness industry, but now it's this intersection between fitness, wellness, and of course insurance companies. Insurance companies are willing also to start working with fitness industry. We have a lot of very interesting interesting conversations between the insurance companies. All of them told us like, we want to be a little bit more close with the fitness industry,
Mhm.
but they don't know how to do it. That's really good insight for me, because it's like live different languages at the same time, but everyone wants to do the same thing. So yes, different verticals trying to use the wearables data, and also big pharma. I can tell you also the big pharma for clinical trials, or big
Right.
pharma for safety reasons. Once you have the drug inside you, it's like track the real time, real world evidence with the wearables data. It's very interesting.
Well, and I appreciate what you're saying on the insurance half, because especially anyone that's had to deal with insurance, all their decisions need to be backed up and evidence
Yeah.
based. And to your point, the fitness industry not that long ago, people just viewed it as the place for shredded abs, losing weight, new year, new me, people drop off, cycle continues. And the narrative around that from an industry perspective, we know has changed so greatly, and it's so refreshing, and the trickle down of the consumer understanding is changing. And so not only does it make sense for insurance companies to get involved, but I think the consumer demand of wanting support for these preventative measures is also really changing slowly, but it is certainly changing. But for yourselves, because of your platform, I saw a stat in your site that you process over 1 billion wearable data points annually, which I don't think anybody can mentally picture and quantify that number. So I'm curious,
Yeah.
like, what are some of the biggest trends or surprises that have emerged from this data? And really, how can owners capitalize on this information?
Yeah, that's a really, really, really good question. And well, first of all, one of the biggest trends we have seen is the demand of the personalized fitness journey. So if we are talking about clubs, fitness centers, end user want to have a more personalized experience. So if you have the data from the end users, you can start to customize the exercise on top of your stress levels, on top of your sleep, on top of your nutrition. You can be more precise on which type of food you will need. I know that you can we have books around that, we have science around that, but at the end of the day, when you run a clinical trial, it's just with a specific type of people, but not everyone it's the same way. We have outliers all over the places. So having this information from the club centers, have this information from different apps that want to customize, I think that's very important. Also the apps, after pandemics, there is a lot of apps outside, like Sweat, like Center from Chris Hemsworth, from Fit Body, Fit whatever. There's a lot of fit apps outside, which are great, and then it's complementary with the clubs. And trying to bring wearables in the middle, it's like bringing that customized, personalized thing for the end user. So they are looking for that. Definitely 100%. Everyone is looking for how can you personalize the experience.
Well, I know one of the conversations that came up very often, I was at the Fitness Technology Summit in the fall, and it's a sentiment that I hear time and time again that the fitness industry in particular tends to be late adopters with new technology. Sometimes there's a little bit of resistance or lack of understanding of how the investment will really impact the return of investment down the line. Do you feel that, and this is kind of a blanket statement, so it can be a little bit individual, but for health club operators as a whole, do you think that they understand and are capitalizing on the power of the fact that their members generally are wearing all the info that they need to know? Or is there some low hanging fruit here that they're missing?
Definitely, they are missing something here because data is the new oil. So definitely, gyms owner moves are moving from one size fit all model to a truly personalized experience for the end user. Once you have this personalized experience, it's where you can, they are not going only to be there all the time, but also they are going to bring new users. So definitely it's something that will work only if they use the data that they have from the end users. Not only that, they can have experience, or they can have the data outside of the gym, inside, outside, behaviors. So I mean, data, it's power. Data, it's very important. So now it's like you can find data all of the places. You can go web. In fact, you have the cookies in your web
Yeah.
that track you everything. If you for some reason can see I don't know, a desk, you will see in your, I don't know, in your Instagram, in your TikTok, in your whatever, in Facebook, in Twitter, all around desks. So it's the same thing. If you have this type of information about your end user and behaviors, he's a runner, he's a guy that likes the weights, he's a guy that love, I don't know, CrossFit, you can start modeling everything and personalize experience for them. So yeah.
Can you kind of talk me through like what that actually would look like in regards to your relationship with your member? Because I know we hear about hyper personalization, but let's say they implement a service such as yours. How does that exactly change their member experience? Is this a situation where all of a sudden they're getting a different type of push notification, or what does that relationship look like? Because I think sometimes there's a disconnect that we hear, yay, there's data. And then you have all these data points. And then you're like, how does that actually help the person?
Yeah, it's very complex. What we do is very abstract because we are a data science company. So basically, we are behind the scenes. So if let's say that this club have an app, or they have a platform to manage the end user's experience, whatever that means, could be, I don't know how many times you go to the club, or payrolls, or whatever. So if the end user has one app or a platform to join the club, we are behind. They only have to copy paste our code, and then they will have access to this information of the end user. Of course, the end user has to authorize everything. It's a consent. There is a terms and conditions, how we are going to use the data, how they are going to use the data, as all the platforms like Facebook, like Instagram,
Mhm.
whatever you join, there's terms and conditions around your pictures, about your data, about your comments, about your everything, right? So it's the same thing. They integrate our platform, our code, they have access to the end user, and the experience of the end user, we help them to build that experience. We have a health score. We have different type of things that can bring insights to the end user, but not only the end user, also the business, the club. They will have experience around which churns, or which ones are going to take it, what will be a churn, or how can you acquire new type of end users depending on the type of exercise you have in your club. So there's like a different type of things that you can do with our information, with our platform, that they are going to be have embedded in their own.
Well, and
So
as you said
yeah.
before, hyper personalization is the goal of almost every operator at this point. If not, it needs to be, because especially when it comes to the Gen Z population, which we know are very engaged in our spaces, they're demanding these types of experiences. It's becoming very quickly an expectation, not an add-on. And so you don't want to get left behind. But you kind of brought up a point. You're like, data is power, which absolutely it is, especially, I mean, for a health club operator to know the signs of a member that might be canceling and being able to intersect that beforehand, incredible from a retention standpoint. But with great data also comes great responsibility. And I know that that's a big conversation as well of, we're collecting all this information. Yes, there are terms and conditions, but talk to me a little bit about the importance of protecting that data as well, and what that looks like from a company such as yourselves, and the considerations that have to go into place, because this is very, I mean, a hyper personalized experience means hyper personalized information.
Yeah, 100%. So for us, data privacy is critical for us. And we prioritize everything. That's why we are HIPAA compliant, GDPR compliant, ISO, SOC 2. We ensure that members' data is handled and with the highest level of security. So definitely, once everything is it's very clear in the terms and conditions, but on top of that, we do a lot of stuff, because also we work with the clinical, or we
Right.
work with the big pharma, we work with insurance companies, we work with fitness clubs. So data is super important. So we handle everything with all the conditions, with all the laws that are in the market to yeah, to help to manage all this information.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you want to do that from a business perspective. It would be a public relations crisis if you didn't. And it
Yes.
goes that way, but it is an important consideration for especially people that are obtaining these types of services, to kind of understand the responsibility that we have if we are asking for people to share this information, which ultimately is going to amp up their experience. But that is definitely something that needs to be strongly considered for yourself. I'm curious about AI. I know it's like nobody can not talk about AI, but you said that this whole pivot happened post pandemic. So I imagine your platform building being built without the aid of that. And then it was a very quick pivot societally of artificial intelligence being a partner in technology. So, talk to me a little bit about how that might have changed your workflows, because I can't imagine it's not something that's being utilized on your end. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, no, no. Yes, definitely. This is something very important. AI is it's massive. It's really massive, and we have previous experience before Rook. We create another company in 2003. um, we built a machine learning for hospitals.
Very cool. In
So
2003?
yeah, we were in the college. In fact, my previous co-founder, he was my co-founder. Right now, it's again my co-founder. Sorry. So he's a very good friend, and we know each other since college. So we built that company before, and we get an exit. What big franchise in Latin America bought our company? Was
Incredible.
a hospital. Yeah, it was amazing, and we learned. We have a lot of learnings over there, because before there was no AI,
Yeah.
was machine learning, and that's it, right? In 2003. In fact, we sold the company in 2006. But yeah, to your point, AI is it's very important. It's try to create the algorithm. The problem with the AI is that you need very standardized and normalized information so you can use it, because outside there is a lot of noise. And this is something that we learn. That's why we first build our algorithms, helping to normalize and standardize and take out all the noise of the data that we receive from all the devices. So once we have that, we can clean the data and we deliver very specific things. Only that standardization and normalization, we build an AI tool. That's for us. That's the first thing that we did. Then we are going to start bringing insights and more predictions for our clients, but this is something that we are going to release later. But definitely, it's massive. It's very important right now. I think it's a really good tool to help you to improve and be more like quicker, be more precise, be more, again, talking about customization. It's everything is all around that. So yes, this is something that definitely it's on top of minds for us.
That's interesting, though. That's why I said I was like in 2003, because it must be so fascinating for you to go from what it was. I mean, I say not that long ago, but I guess this is now
No, it
where you're like,
was.
"Oh, wait, that was 20 years ago."
Yeah, exactly. 20 years ago.
Right?
Exactly.
But it is kind of wild to see where we are at and how
Mhm.
accessible these tools are. But obviously, it's impacting everyone from front end to back end. And if you aren't playing in the space, you're really missing out because, to your point, it adds an exponent on a human being. And I understand there's a lot of fears there, and some of them well warranted. I think any type of new tech that we incorporate needs to be respected. But at the same time, it makes us exponential human beings because it's like machine and human working in tandem. 2024, who would have thought? But for yourself, on that note, we're in, I mean, at time of airing, it will be 2025. And I kind of started the conversations being like, wearables have been around for a hot minute. I mean, I remember
Yeah.
when the basic Fitbit came out, and they've evolved so greatly along the way. What do you think the future of wearables look like? I mean, we have seen such great adoption, so I don't think they're going anywhere.
I love I'm very enthusiastic about the wearables. I have my first wearable was a Polar. Was the first one, if I remember well, between Polar and Garmin maybe, and only measured before the steps and some heart rate, more or less. And then uh, the other one I was very keen and very excited was WeThings. WeThings is is a French brand, and then was bought by different companies. But they were doing something very interesting. And to your question, it's like everyone is moving to the healthcare space because want to be medical device. And in fact, we start to see after pandemic FDA clearance from some features for some wearables. And today we have some wearables outside, like CGMs, which are the continuous glucose monitors. And some of them they are wearables. It's
Yeah,
like, and they are
wild.
medical devices. It's
Yeah.
wild. It's wild. And definitely everyone is going to that area. Everyone is going to be on that place. So I can see a world where everyone is going to use one wearable for track your health. Definitely could be a pill, could be something that you are going to implant for yourself, could be a tattoo. If I remember, I can't tell you the name, but when I worked before in the big pharma, because my also I work in the big pharma, there was a clinical trial with one tattoo,
Right.
and the tattoo, you know, the tattoo show you your glucose level. So what's amazing for me was, okay, that's great. And now I can see the CGMs how it's moving. Now there is a little chip that is going to be implanted on yourself, and that will track you 24/7 hours the whole year, not only 30
Yeah,
weeks.
little
Sorry,
samples.
so
Yeah.
30 days. 30 days. It's going to be the whole week, the whole year. So things are moving forward on that place, and I'm very very excited to see what's going to happen. And yeah, I think everyone will have one wearable in their own body.
Yeah, it's wild to think, but to your point, you're like trials like this have already been in existence. And it's one of those things we know with technology, whatever as a consumer side that you're aware of that exists and is in the market. Well, the testing and the innovations are already well underway. They may already be 5 years, 10 years underway. So it's a very exciting time, especially playing in a place as you are, where, as you mentioned, like data is the new gold. So I'm curious, you've obviously had an incredible founder's journey from even a very young age and a lot of success. So, kind of shifting gears here, but what have been some of your biggest lessons along this journey? Especially because, as you mentioned, we were putting one company together and we realized that we needed to do a pivot, which you have executed. So, what have kind of been the biggest milestones or challenges within that you've overcome?
That's a very good question. I will say that the biggest challenge is to find the correct people to work. It's
Fair.
always around
I'm sure
people
there's a
and
couple nods being
communication.
like, made that mistake before where it
No,
wasn't.
no, no, definitely, definitely. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a big challenge for everyone. I I found the correct team, my co-founders. I really love my co-founders. Really, believe me, they are the best of the best. Everyone, it's very everyone has their own thing to put in the table. So it's like I have a brother. It's like I have also like a wife. I'm married, by the way. So my wife and myself, we are complementary.
Mhm.
The same happened with my co-founders. So this is not the first time that I build something with them. It's the second time, in fact. So that's the reason when you find someone and you admire that person, that's where the magic happened. So I will say that the most is not around the technology, it's not around the business, is be with the correct people and also with investors, because in our case we are a startup and we raise money with different investors, and also have the correct investors is very difficult. It's like first of all, find money is not that easy.
Mhm.
It sounds very fancy to build a startup and have raise money and build something. It sounds super fancy and rock star and whatever, but it's not like that. That someone put $1 in your idea, it's very difficult.
Mhm.
So then find the correct investor. That's the other part, which is very difficult. And I found them, and I have a very good conversations with each one. So that's why I love to have conversations with all of them. They always tell me that I am spending too much time with them, but it's for me, it's not spending it. For me, it's like creating this big relationship with them. So I'm a
Good.
fan believer of create the relationship with your investors, with your people, with your co-founders, with your team, with everyone. I will say that that's because pivots in your company doesn't matter. You can pivot, you can change, but you have the correct people. If you don't have the correct people, you will fail on that pivot.
I
So
kind
yeah.
of love that that's your point because just talking earlier about artificial intelligence and all the fears that people have, and what you're saying is really a testament to the fact at the end of the day, the human relationship can't be replaced. And that is what is pivotal when you are building something. I'm curious with you just bringing up the investment side, because we do talk a lot about that from a health club standpoint and consolidations, mergers, acquisitions, etc. But for yourself, like in regards to the wearable and data science space, do you feel that there's a strong appetite heading into 2025 for investors to grow this space? Do they have a firm understanding of where the space is going? Or do you think that there's still a lot of education on your part for them to understand why this is the innovation of the future?
I think everyone understand the powerful of the data. There is a lot of appetite. In fact, if you can see now, like what was it, like 2 weeks ago, Dexcom invest in Aura. That was massive.
Massive. Yeah.
So big pharma, it's looking the wearables today. That's the answer, I will say.
Yeah,
That's the answer.
that's very fair, especially anyone that knows big pharma has big in front of it for a big reason. It's like there's a lot of dollars and cents. So it's going to be fascinating. But lastly, before I let you go here, obviously our audience here are a lot of fitness industry executives. And I'm sure heading into 2025, there's many that are looking to streamline their operations, finally hone down that hyper personalization that they heard spoken about at every conference throughout 2024. So, what would be your overarching message to those that maybe have, because technology, any new tech, it's an investment. And yeah, you might be a huge enterprise operator and have the dollars, but some of the smaller players, that may be a significant consideration. So, why is it something that they should not ignore as they're heading into this next year?
Definitely, they should not ignore the small ones, the small companies, the small fitness clubs, because they are building very quickly, and they are on they want to be successful, and they are looking for the wearables data. That's the first thing. If you go to any event, everyone talk about wearables and connections with the hardware, personalize, customize the experience. That's super important. So the small ones eventually is they are going to grow a lot, so they need to keep the eyes very open. It doesn't matter that you have a big franchise, you have to update everything, because if you want to take the new generations, as you said before, they are looking for that. They see that these type of things all over the places. They have, if they open the Safari or the Google, everything is customized. Everything, your purchase, you whatever you are looking for, everything is personalized. So if you are not doing this, please, you have to do it, because if not, something is going to happen in the future, and the future is not so far.
No, as we learned when I said 2003, that was yesterday. No, it was 20 years ago. Well, Marco, I so appreciate you taking the time. I'm really excited to have this type of information as well to kick off the new year. Because to your point, I mean, it's made almost every top trending list of this year wearables, every single conference that we've attended, wearables. And I think that there's just all this conversation, data this, data that, but making sense of the data is a completely different ball game. So I appreciate you taking the time to educate us further and give us a little glimpse of what the future may hold. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Very excited. Thank you very much for your time. And yeah, hopefully see you in the next one.
You've just listened to the All Things Fitness and Wellness podcast, hosted by Krissy Vann. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry insiders and influencers. Together, we're on a mission for everyone to live a life fit and well.